Brendan Fitzgerald here at the Golden One Center in Sacramento with UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping and ESPN's Brett Okamoto. We'll get to the big story of Urijah Faber's return in style in a moment, but first let's talk about our main event in the women's bantamweight division. Germaine de Randamie landed one big shot on Aspen lad, and Michael, it was over in 16 seconds, but not without some controversy.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it was the first or one of the first punches, but it was a beautiful straight right, full extension, connected to the jaw, and Aspen lad went down. Now, she didn't fall flat on her face. When she went down, she caught herself on her forearms. Germaine ran over, tried a follow-up shot, which didn't which didn't hit, it missed. So then Aspen turned into her opponent. At this point, referee Herb Dean dived in, waved the fight off. Now, it happened very, very quickly, and referees have a tough job. They have to make a split-second call. So I'm not throwing Herb Dean under a bus. He's one of the best in the world. But for my money, he messed up there tonight. It
was an absolutely early stoppage. And like you, it's hard to blame Herb Dean too much. You know, I mean, the guy has a very, very difficult job. And I think, you know, after rewatching that replay, what happened was the way in which Aspen lad fell down, he made the decision right away. I mean, anything that happened after that was almost kind of insignificant in terms of what Herb Dean's decision was. But Aspen lad was sitting up. She wasn't quite defending herself yet, but she seemed with it. I talked to her briefly in the back. She said, I remember everything. I remember it. I remember the shot. I remember sitting up. I was reaching for her. You know, reaching for her is different than covering up. Herb Dean is erring on the side of caution, which is not bad for a referee. I mean, sure. Aspen lad is 24 years old, but she was also arguably one fight away from a title shot. I think you've got to let that play out a little bit.
She was undefeated, as you said, perhaps a #1 contender matchup. She looked vacant. She did have a vacant look on her face, but I'll tell you, I've been hit many times in my career. You get hit, you don't know where you are, but you recover and you come back, and I've gone on to win fights. As I say, Herb Dean, I apologize, but that was the wrong call tonight. Commiserations to Aspen lad, but you got to say congratulations to Germaine, because she didn't make that call. She went out there, she did what she had to do, landed a beautiful right hand, and she won the fight.
And it is now 5 straight wins for the Iron Lady, Germaine de Randamie. Now let's get to our co-main event. Urijah Faber had been away from the octagon for more than 2.5 years. He turned 40 in that time. He had a daughter with his fiancée Jaslyn in that time. And Brett, you couldn't have scripted it any better.
You really couldn't, yeah. I mean, if you turn in this script, people will tell you, like, this is non-believable. You know, rip this up and write something at least people can believe. It was a magical night from start to finish. And, you know, what made it even better, honestly, was that Urijah wasn't looking great in the first 10, 15 seconds of that fight. Ricky Simone knocked him with a left hook. Ricky Simone was having a little bit of success. Michael Bisping is obviously about to disagree with me.
Brett Okamoto.
But he was taking some shots from a young guy and then turned it around in one shot.
We are standing in the building where not long ago he knocked him out with a right hand. It was a tremendous shot. He took on the upstart, the youngcomer, the one that said, I do everything what Urijah Faber does, but I do it better, and you're old. He went out there, he leaned into that shot, dropped him and finished him in style. How dare you?
Where does Urijah go from here?
Well, listen, he spoke about a title shot against Henry Cejudo. In fact, it was Henry that called him out. He mentioned his name alongside some others. Now, listen, Uriah's coming back. He's 40 years old. He's not going to have a long career. He wants the biggest fights possible. I sign off on that. I think for the body of work he's given to the company, for the ambassador to the sport that he has been, give the man his title shot.
Well, coming from a man who had to wait a very long time for a title shot and then magically did win his title, which we were all very happy about, I can understand why you would say give Urijah the shot.
Okay, but you're going to argue with me again.
It is a great storyline. Yes. However, Urijah Faber does not deserve a title shot right now. From a career standpoint, hey, great. Give California kid all the love in the world, all the accolades in the world, but the title, we have got a double champion right now. Henry Cejudo has a long list of guys, not only at 135, but also 125. I think he needs to fight. Joseph Benavidez first. Then I think he needs to fight Aljamain Sterling. Then I think he needs to fight a guy by the name of Petr Yan. Urijah Faber, as great as this night was, does not get to jump the line.
You're absolutely right, but the UFC want to put on the biggest fights possible. Joseph Benavidez, #1 contender for sure, at 125 pounds. Henry Cejudo does not want to go down to 125 right now. They want to put on the biggest fights possible. Dominic Cruz has been away from action for a little bit. I say Urijah Faber. When he walked out here tonight, this building went on fire. He's a fan favorite. He's a legend of the sport. Give the man his title shot and apologize right now.
Well,
I will not apologize.
When he left, he was the 7th ranked bantamweight contender. When he won over Brad Pickett, retired, returned, and got the big win. We'll see where they go next. I would get in the middle, but I think we can all agree on what's next. Josh Emmett. He had a standout performance against a very strong contender in Mirsad Bektic. What a performance for another Sacramento native.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Both of these gentlemen swing very, very hard, and it was kind of a case of who was going to connect first, but We saw Josh Emmett kind of taking his time, being a little tentative, being smart. And what did he do? Step forward with a nice jab, sat him down, and from there, that was the beginning of the end.
Finally, me and Bisping are going to agree on something, because I remember earlier this week, I think you had even wrote it down, highlighted on your list of notes, that Josh Emmett is a knockout artist, but he's not a guy who's just out there headhunting for no reason. I mean, you could see it against a guy who I think is very, very good in Mirsad Bektic. He set those shots up well. He dropped him with a jab. This wasn't him just running out there with a big overhand right, launching it from the left field. This was a jab. This was he had a nice shot to the body. Josh Emmett is a handful on the feet, and I can't wait to see what's next for him, because he is dangerous guy at 145 pounds.
So a first-round finish for Urijah Faber, a first-round finish for Josh Emmett, and it does not stop there for Team Alpha Male. And also in the featherweight division earlier in the night, Brett, it was Andre Fili who had been looking for that standout signature UFC performance, and he got it certainly here.
Yeah, and I'm not going to crown this guy the next champion yet, but he's in such a good spot. I mean, it's cliched for us to sit here and say, oh my God, look at Andre Fili, he's really figured it all out. He's doing this, he's doing that. But there is a lot of truth to that. And we talked about that with him and his team all week, that when this kid first started at Team Alpha Male, he was young, he was still maybe even doing some things that he shouldn't. He comes from a little bit of a rough background, rough group of friends. He even told us a story about how July 4th, he went out and celebrated. A lot of his friends are drinking, doing some other things, and he's like, hey, these are still my friends. I'll sit there, I'll enjoy it, but an hour later, I'm gone because I got to be at the gym. That is where he's at in his career and his life, and it is showing right now. The confidence that he had against a guy in Shaman Moraes, who is not an easy out. He went out there and demolished him. I am so impressed with what Andre Fili did tonight.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding for Andre, because as you said, Shaman Moraes is a tough customer, a very, very good world-class striker, and Andre went out there, waited for the right moment, threw that head kick, and it was a thing of beauty, a beautiful stoppage. You're right, we shouldn't be talking title fights just yet, but the man is on a roll. He's improving every time, and we're going to see him a big fight very, very soon.
Well, Fili and Josh Emmett and Urijah Faber all netted themselves a $50,000 bonus for their first-round stoppage victories. Let's spin it forward now. Next week, the UFC goes back to Texas, as San Antonio is the stage for a welterweight main event, Michael, between Leon Edwards from your native country, and he'll take on Rafael dos Anjos.
Rafael dos Anjos is the epitome of a fighter. He will fight anybody. That's a cliche, it gets thrown around a lot. But look at his past opponents. Kamaru Usman, Robbie Lawler. The list goes on. All top contenders. Kevin Lee was his last fight. He is on a mission to get that belt, and he will take on all comers. Now, on the flip side, he's got a very, very tough fight. It's not going to be an easy one. Leon Edwards, last time out against Gunnar Nelson, he looked outstanding, well-rounded, in his prime, extremely fit, and one hell of a striker.
Yeah, to your point about RDA will fight anybody, this is the fight. This is what shows it. Leon Edwards is going to come in here with a major chip on his shoulder, because he feels like those guys like RDA won't fight him, that he's been winning these fights, that he has a long win streak, but he calls these guys out, and they just never respond to him. RDA did. I respect RDA for taking that fight, and it's a big fight at 170 pounds.
Well, here's the thing. You could argue that RDA has nothing to gain from taking this fight. RDA is ahead of him in the rankings. He wants to fight for the belt, but as I said, he's the epitome of a fighter. He'll take an all-comers. You want me to fight somebody ranked lower than me? All right, let's do it.
What a division, that 170-pound division in the UFC for Brett Okamoto and Michael Bisping. I am Brendan Fitzgerald. It has been a pleasure from Sacramento, and the locals lived up to it. What a night.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.